till the last day. Last time we finished almost the introduction. And we have seen that at the time of the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba who were not in need of the book, they were not in need of the what we can say Usool al-Fiqh and Usool al-Lugha or Usool al-Tafsir, because they were by their nature and by their fitrah, they have been raised to recognize and know their language. And at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, no doubt that anything that they might misunderstand, or for example would look into it as a confusion, they would ask the Prophet ﷺ. And no doubt that even the ulama of Islam have mentioned that there was no much difference amongst the Sahaba, may Allah be pleased with them, like the differences that had occurred after them. And the more the people away from the pristine sources of Islam or the wahi, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, in time, with regard to time, they become more having differences in opinion and the understanding of the Quran and the language. And we have mentioned some, until now, for example, so many people, when they hear some of the ayat of the Quran, they don't recognize it like like what they recognize of what they think it's okay. Now most of the people, they speak slang. They don't speak the right language, or what we can say the original language of the Quran. So when they sometimes hear some of the ayat, they don't understand it in the right sense as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed it. Not only that, sometimes it becomes to them very, very strange that it was composed in this way. And no doubt it's due to the fact that they are very, very far away from the Sharia and from the Quran and Sunnah. We said that after the Sahaba, may Allah be pleased with them, and the three blessed generations, there come the Tabi'een and the Tabi'een, and at their time the lands of the Muslim or the Islamic State had expanded so much that it reached the outskirts of, you can say, China to the east, and it reached almost to Morocco and to lost Andalus, called Spain now. And due to that, the people started accepting Islam, bringing them with them their languages, and the need arises to establish the basics of language, the usul of Arabic language, like al-Nahu, al-Sarf, and the Nahu, al-Sarf, and al-Balagha. These are three fields with regard to the Arabic language. And we have fields with regard to the tafsir, and usul al-tafsir comes. And no doubt usul al-tafsir is in need, and it will, all of other fields, they are based on the Arabic language, no doubt. And usul al-fiqh. Usul al-fiqh was, preceded even, the other fields, like the the Usool al-Tafsir, Usool al-Hadith, and the other, the Arabic language in general. Usool al-Tafsir is the almost needed and essential for all of the other fields. And inshallah, as will come with us in the discussion, inshallah, reading the book, we will find out that when he talked about the Usool al-Fiqh, he will say what it is, inshallah, all about. Let's start, inshallah, the book today. And after that, inshallah, we can maybe comment on some aspects of what the Dr. Bilal has translated. You can go ahead, inshallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Page number 16. Usool al-Fiqh, the principles of fiqh. Definitions. The phrase.
One point before I start. Most of the, any science we discuss, there are certain terminology that need to be known prior to commencing and coming onto any field. Whether one is studying whatever field, whatever science, worldly science, or subhanallah, religious science, we will find out that the essence is to learn the terminology and to master the terminology so that a person would know what is he talking about. Because when we talk about the Usool al-Fiqh, there are some similarities with other fields like Usool al-Tafsir, but you will find they have their own terminology. Usool al-Tafsir different than Usool al-Fiqh, different than even Usool al-Hadith or Usool the Arabic language or the field, the other sciences. Okay? Yes.
Definitions. The phrase Usool al-Fiqh consists of two words joined together in a possessive construction, and it is used as the proper name for a special branch of knowledge. It is important, therefore, to define it both as an ordinary possessive construction and as a special name given to the subject. Firstly, the word usool. Usool is the plural of asl, which literally means the basis on which something else is built. Thus, the foundation for a wall or roof is its asl, just as the roots of a tree is its asl. The Quran says, أَلَمْ تَرَ كَيْفَ ضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا كَلِمَةً طَيِّبَةً كَشَجَرَةٍ طَيِّبَةٍ أَصْلُهَا ثَابِتٌ وَفَرْعُهَا فِي السَّمَاءِ. The meaning in English: a good word is like a good tree whose roots, that's asl, are firmly fixed in the ground and whose branches reach into the heavens. Surah Ibrahim, verse number 24. Technically speaking, the word asl has several meanings. Number one, it could mean a general principle. For example, in the legal statement, the imperative is considered an asl indicating obligation. Thus, when Allah says, وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. So take that the messenger gives you and avoid what he forbids you. Surah Al-Hashr, verse number 7. This is a general command which indicates that the Prophet ﷺ must be obeyed without pinpointing any specific command from him. Number two, it could also mean a proof. For example, it is said that the proof, asl, that fasting is obligatory, can be found in the following words of Allah. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyam. O you who believe, fasting is prescribed for you. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse number 183. The word fiqh literally means understanding, knowledge. Allah says the following in the Quran while relating to us the story of Prophet Moses. وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي. And remove impediment from my speech so that they may understand what I say. Surah Al-Taha, verse number 27-28.
Yes.
The verbal phrase yafqahu, that means they understand, is derived from the word fiqh. In its technical usage, fiqh is knowledge of Islamic social rules by means of their detailed proofs. From the Sunnah, Muawiyah radiallahu ta'ala anhu quoted the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, "Man yuridillahu bihi khayran yufaqihu fid din, wa innama ana qasimun wallahu yu'ti, wa lan tazala hadhihi al-umma qa'ima ala amri Allahi la yadhurruhum man khalafahum hatta ya'tiya amrullah." Which means, to whomsoever Allah wishes good, He gives the understanding of the religion, that is the fiqh. Indeed, I am only a distributor and Allah is the bestower. This nation will never stop upholding Allah's command without being harmed by those who oppose them until Allah's command for the last day comes. Sahih al-Bukhari. Fiqh is the name given to jurisprudence in Islam. In its widest sense, it covers all aspects of religious, political, and civil life. In addition to the laws regulating ritual and religious observances, that is ibadat, as far as concerns performance and abstinence, it includes the whole field of family law, the law of inheritance, of property and contract, in a word, provisions for all the legal questions that arise in social life, mu'amalat. It also includes criminal law and procedure, and finally, constitutional law and laws regulating the administration of the state and conduct of war. All aspects of public and private life and business should be regulated by laws recognized by religion. The science of these laws is fiqh. Sought Encyclopedia of Islam, page number 102. The general understanding is found in the following verse. وَلَوْلَا نَفَرَ مِنْ كُلِّ فِرْقَةٍ مِّنْهُمْ طَائِفَةٌ لِيَتَفَقَّهُوا فِي الدِّينِ. Were it not for a separate group from each of their assemblies in order to derive understanding from the religion. It is also found in the following hadith narrated by Abu Huraira radiyallahu ta'ala an. Su'ila Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, man akramun nasi qala atqahum lillahi qalu laysa an hadha nas'aluka qala fa akramun nasi Yusuf nabiyullah ibn nabiyallah ibn Khalil. Fiqh is therefore the principles or basis on which the science of fiqh is built.
Yeah, this hadith he brought here, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. The Sahaba, may Allah be pleased with them, asked about who's the most noble, okay? Akram means here noble amongst humans. So the Messenger ﷺ understood a generality, okay? Then they said, we are not asking, we don't mean that, because they know that he who fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the more pious, is no doubt he's the noblest, okay? And he's the noblest amongst humans, or amongst, compared to others. But they meant, who's the noblest, okay? The highest one. He mentioned that the noblest is Yusuf alayhi salam, due to the fact that he is Nabi, son of Nabi, and son of Nabi, and son of Khalilullah, okay? Ibn Khalilullah. Yes.
An explanation of the definition of fiqh. Number one.
Before we go to this, let's just go go, at the asl, when he said, the word usul al-fiqh is two words, usul, which is, plural of asl, and we have fiqh. And usually the ulama, they say, when you say, for example, usul, it doesn't mean anything unless you add it to something. Usul what? Because if you say usul al-nas, usul al-nas means what? Their origins. Huh? It could mean their, for example, back lineage, or their, for example, the first father, Adam. When you add it to something, usul, you will find a different meaning for that. That's why we said usul al-tafsir, it's totally different than usul al-fiqh. So there is an overlap due to the that they have taken from the same sources. So he said here, asl, and he said it is a plural of asl, and he gave a meaning. The meaning of it is whatever is built on something, we call it asl or asas. In another word, it's called al-asas. The foundation of something or the root of something is asl, or the basis of it. Okay. And he mentioned the ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has stated, and he mentioned asl in it. And this is the way usually the ulama look into the evidences from the Quran and Sunnah, because whatever terminology they use, it must be found in the Quran and Sunnah. That's why when we talk about anything with regard to the deen, we have to refer back to how it was defined by Allah and by His Messenger, and how this term was understood by the early generation, the companions of the Prophet, and this is actually the basis for the usul al-fiqh. So he said, he mentioned the ayah in Surah Ibrahim, ayah number 24. ألم تر كيف ضرب الله مثلا كلمة طيبة كشجرة طيبة أصلها ثابت وفرعها في السماء. A good word is like a good tree whose roots are firmly fixed in the ground, and those whose branches reach to the heavens. And the ulama, they said this kalima طيبة here is la ilaha illallah, and la ilaha illallah is like the firm tree. The roots of this kalima is inside the hearts, and the fruits of it, or the branches, is the actions done by the believer and acquired by he who wants to be saved. And no doubt this shajara is very what we can say steadfast and firm, due to the fact that it has roots. While in contrast to that, ومثل كلمة خبيثة كشجرة خبيثة اجتثت من فوق الأرض ما لها من قرار. He mentioned Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in contrast to that is the other way, which is the one who has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said كلمة خبيثة, a bad or an evil words that has no basis at all. It doesn't have any roots. It's like the tree that has no roots. It can easily be taken down. Then he said about the technical meaning of it, okay, and he said the word asl has several meanings. He mentioned the general principle, okay. The general principle is like what we said, a general rule in the ibadat. Al-asl fi al-ibadat is at-tawqif. Why they say at-tawqif? This is, they say al-asl, a general principle or a general rule with regard to ibadat, that it is forbidden to be done unless proofs show otherwise. الأصل في المعاملات الإباحة. Okay. He also mentioned here an example. He said the imperative, which means صيغة الأمر in Arabic. Imperative here means actually it is a terminology, grammatical terminology, means the phrase that connotes or that points and or conveys an order. In Arabic we say صيغة الأمر. So if someone says to you قم اقعد كل اشرب تكلم, this is an order, okay? And this imperative is considered an asl, indicating obligation, or it implies the imperative, okay, is considered an asl. They call it a general principle for any imperative you find in the Sharia, in the sayings of the Prophet ﷺ, that it is an order. And if the Prophet ﷺ say something, then we should realize that it is an order. And this is what the Sahaba, may Allah be pleased with them, understood, to the extent that it has been mentioned a marvelous examples. One of the Sahaba, may Allah be pleased with him, he was heading to the masjid and he heard the Messenger ﷺ saying to the people, calm and sit down, okay, take your seats or sit down. He sat in the middle of the road before he reached even the masjid, because of what he heard of the order of the Prophet ﷺ, and may Allah be pleased with them, he wanted to implement it right away. Okay, and this is another general principle, another asl. The ulama, they say al-asl fil amr al-wujub. The original matter of the order is to be an obligation or to be a duty upon a person to do, and they said also to be done instantaneously, على الفور. Okay, if someone says to you something, he orders you, he wants you to do it right away. That's why the Sahabi, may Allah be pleased with him, he did it right away when he heard the Messenger ﷺ saying to the people, sit down or take your seats. He took his seat on the way, on the road to the masjid, before he reached even the masjid. No doubt that this Sahabi, may Allah be pleased with him, will be rewarded. And the Prophet ﷺ, he meant, no doubt, those Sahaba inside the masjid. If he would have reached the masjid and he sat, he would have been doing that, or complying and adhering to the order of the Prophet ﷺ. But this Sahabi, he did it, before even reaching the masjid. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised the esteem of the Sahaba, may Allah be pleased with them. Nowadays, when we talk to a person and you give him the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and this hadith is an order, he would say, is it a sunnah? Is it a mustahab? Is it wajib? Is it, a pillar? Rukn? It's a problem, And the Prophet ﷺ, with this regard, he said, sallallahu إِذَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِأَمْرٍ فَأْتُوا مِنْهُ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. And this is again to show us how the Sharia, the Islamic Sharia, alhamdulillah, Allah made it very easy. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not burdened us beyond our scope. So he said, when I order you to do something, try to do whatever you like in accordance to your capacities, in accordance to your abilities. But the Prophet ﷺ, in contrast to that, he said, وَإِذَا نَهَيْتُكُمْ عَنْ أَمْرٍ فَانْتَهُوا. If I would forbid you something, you should stop. And the ulama, they said there is a difference between the order and the abstinence or the forbidden things, because an order needs a person to take some initiative and do something, do some efforts, while usually abstination needs a person to stop, okay, to stop doing something, which is easier than carrying out some some deeds or some obligations. So this ayah in Surah Al-Hashr, ayah number 7, Surah number 59, وَمَا أَتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. And this is no doubt an asl and a general principle should be known to all of us. So he said that this is a general command which indicates that the Prophet ﷺ must be obeyed without giving any details about specific command. We should not differentiate between a command and another command. That's why the Prophet ﷺ, in the hadith of Siwak, he said, لولا أن أشق على أمتي لأمرتهم بالسواك عند كل صلاة or عند كل وضوء. If it was not a burdensome to my ummah, I would have ordered them to use siwak at every wudu or every salah. And this, this is evident that what the Prophet ﷺ, when the Prophet ﷺ orders something, it becomes incumbent to comply and adhere to the best of their ability. He said also it could also, number 2, mean a proof, okay, the evidence. And the ulama, they said, like it is said that the proof asal that fasting is obligatory can be found in the following words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam. O you who believe, fasting is prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before us, or before you, as in the ayah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. This is in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah number 183. And there are other meanings to this. We are not going to to talk about now, but inshallah it will come with us. So this is the first part. Asl is known, is the foundation, the basis, the evidences. Okay, that's why also Usool al-Fiqh. Usool means the evidences of fiqh. Okay. Secondly, the word fiqh, and this word is very evident and very obvious to us because we know, from the ayat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned لَعَلَّهُمْ يَفْقَهُونَ, and he quoted the ayah here, وَحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِنْ لِسَانِي يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي, the saying of Musa alayhi salam, and remove impediment from my speech so that they may understand or fathom what I say. And fiqh is to understand fully what the speaker says, like what we are talking now, and we are trying our best to make things simple so that it will be understood, it will be digested. Okay, so this is the meaning of fiqh in general. In the technical usage, fiqh is knowledge of Islamic social rules by means of their detailed proofs. He said Islamic social rules. Maybe he goes to this definition to exclude the knowledge. No doubt it is knowledge, but if you say knowledge, it could comprise other knowledge. But when he said of Islamic social rules, the things that pertains to actions, okay, that's needed by the individual and the society. And he mentioned, down what he meant about, the ibadat and the muamalat. Okay, and the ulama, they said, I believe he mentioned social here rules to exclude the aqidah and tawheed. So it is fiqh. It is a kind of fiqh. Rather, it is the major fiqh. The real fiqh is to know and recognize tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his aqidah. And no doubt the Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, he has a book called Al-Fiqh al-Akbar, and he dedicated this book for aqidah and tawheed and the belief. However, in the terminology now, if one says ilm al-fiqh, he would only think that it is the fiqh pertains to human beings or to our actions, okay? To ibadat and muamalat from salah and onwards. He mentioned the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in the Sunnah, that Muawiyah radiallahu anhu said that the Messenger ﷺ, he said, من يريد الله به خيرا يفقهه في الدين وإنما أنا قاسم والله يعطي ولن تزال هذه الأمة قائمة على أمر الله لا يضرهم من خالفهم حتى يأتي أمر الله. Subhanallah, nicely quoted this hadith, all of it, because at the beginning of it, it could be, for example, sufficient, but the rest actually give it more broad meaning of the fiqh. The Messenger ﷺ, he says, to whomsoever Allah wishes good, he gives the understanding of the religion. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the understanding of the deen. And the ulama, they said, مفهوم المخالفة, and this is part of the Usool al-Fiqh, as we will come to, inshallah. The wording here, okay, المعنى الظاهر المنطوق, it says, whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala desires goodness, he gives him an understanding in the deen. مفهوم المخالفة is the opposite shade of meaning, or the opposite inference from this statement. And he whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not desire a good, he doesn't give him understanding in the deen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and save us. And this is mafhum al-mukhalafa, is part of the usul al-fiqh, as will come with us, inshallah. Then the Messenger ﷺ said, I am only a distributor. إنما أنا قاسم. The Messenger ﷺ distributes or gives out, whether that thing he distributes is knowledge or is booties or the provisions of this life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the bestower. The Prophet ﷺ preached the deen ﷺ to the best of his ability, and supported by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, giving him the eloquency and giving him jawami' al-kalim. But many people, they heard the Messenger ﷺ, and some of them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised them in iman and increased them in faith, and others, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us, it was a blindness for them and an astriness and deviation more and more. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from all of that. So he's a distributor and Allah is the bestower. Again, it goes to the understanding of the deen. And part of this shade of, meaning of ana qasim, wallahu yu'ti, is the understanding of the deen. Okay? And he said, this nation will never stop upholding Allah's command, or Allah's sharia, or Allah's deen. It will still be upon the right path by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because due to the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has dedicated ulama and knowledgeable people who are trustworthy, who disseminate and spread the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, referenced back in the Quran and Sunnah, seeking thereof His pleasure. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be amongst them. And they will stay upon that path, upon that, the command without being harmed, and they will not be harmed at all by those who oppose them in any sense. Alhamdulillah, till the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes with the finalizing this life. He mentioned also fiqh is the name given to jurisprudence in Islam, and we mentioned this, ibadat and muamalat, and he mentioned that all the subjects of fiqh other than ibadat, because ibadat are understood to be salah, siyam, zakah, hajj, umrah and the like, and muamalat is the family law, the law of inheritance, the property, and that of contracts, and provisions, the legal questions that arise in social life. It also includes the criminal law, the other laws, governing the states at times of peace or war. He mentioned also, he said, all aspects of public and private life and business should be regulated by the Sharia, by the laws recognized by the religion. So the science of these laws is called fiqh. And he mentioned that this is, mentioned in the shorter Encyclopedia of Islam, page 102. This general understanding is found in the following ayah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, and he talked about jihad at the end of Surah At-Tawbah. He mentioned, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he mentioned subhanahu wa ta'ala, ولولا نفر من كل فرقة منهم طائفة ليتفقهوا في الدين ثم لينذروا قومهم إذا رجعوا إليهم لعلهم يحذرون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it like not only an admonition and a command, but it is incumbent upon an assembly of people to dispatch a group from amongst them so that they will go and seek knowledge and return back to their, after they understand, يتفقهوا. To يتفقه is more than يفقه. Okay, so those people, they will know how to derive and understand the religion. Okay, so those people, they will not only يفقه, they will understand, superficially. No, they will understand deeply the Quran and Sunnah, and they would come and return back to their people, warning them against, the. He mentioned also the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and we have commented on that. You can, inshallah, carry on an explanation of the definition of fiqh.
Fiqh is therefore the principles or basis on which the science of fiqh is built. An explanation of the definition of fiqh. 1. The meaning of knowledge includes reasonable assumptions, which are called dhann. Allah says, فَإِنْ عَلِمْتُمُوهُنَّ مُؤْمِنَاتٍ, which means if you know them to be believers. Surah Al-Mumtahina, verse number 10. That is, if you are reasonably sure.
Yes.
Number
right.
2, the meaning
ahead.
of number 2, the meaning of Islamic rules is whether a thing is compulsory, wajib, commendable, mustahab, prohibited, haram, disliked, makruh, or permissible, mubah. The term Islamic excludes the consideration of mental laws, such as 1 is half of 2, sensory laws like ice is cold, or customary laws like rainfall follows thunder or lightning. Number 3, the adjective social excludes those areas where ijtihad is not valid, such as the knowledge that salah and saum are compulsory, or that adultery and stealing are prohibited, since these are known by necessity in Islam. Thirdly,
Yes.
the technical meaning of usool. Okay.
Yes, we'll take it, inshallah. And these points he mentioned here are when he talked about the ilm. He said the definition of fiqh, as he defined it here before, he said in its technical meaning, and this is, I guess, in page 18. Okay, he said
page 19.
I guess, yeah, page 19. Okay, so he said here, in its technical usage, fiqh is knowledge of Islamic social rules by means of their detailed proofs. Okay, so he's going to take every word and give its meaning. So he took knowledge, what knowledge means, because the ulama, they said, هو العلم بالأحكام الشرعية بأدلتها التفصيلية. Okay, So he said her knowledge, and he said this knowledge, ilm, it includes, also al-yaqeen wal-dhann. The ulama, they said al-ilm is two kinds. There is the reasonable assumptions, dhann, and there is, a fact. Yani, no one would doubt that this is yaqeen, that the salah is prescribed 5 times a day. Nobody, okay, argues about this. Nobody argues that the salah is one of the pillars of Islam, the zakah, as well as siyam and the hajj, So nobody argues about these matters. So this is ilm yaqini. While the ilm al-dhann is like, for example, the debatable issue with regard with that ijtihad, when one makes, sujood al-sahw. Can we do it before salam or after salam? What are the reasons, or why the Prophet ﷺ did it like that or like this? There is no yaqeen with regard to this exactly. Nobody can say 100%, I'm sure, that the Prophet ﷺ did, the sujood al-sahw before salah due to this and this and this, and these are the situations or the issues, if encountered in salah, then we have to do that before salam. Or these are the things, for fact, as a fact, that we can do after salam. No, this is a part of reasonable assumptions and ijtihad of the ulama had been, with regard to it. And he gave an ayah here clearly stating the reasonable assumptions, the dhann. Dhann is, if you recall that we mentioned that al-ilm or al-ma'rifah, cognition, al-ma'rifah, general, includes 5 things. Okay? The ulama, they said al-ma'rifah could be jahl or could be ilm. Okay? And this ilm with all its degrees, either it could be ilm yaqini, okay, or ilm dhanni. And this ilm yaqini could be ilm yaqeen or ayn yaqeen or haqq yaqeen. I hope, inshallah, this terminology is clear. Ilm al-yaqeen is the trusted source that had reported something clearly known. Okay, like the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli." Okay, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "Wa aqimu as-salah." We know this ayah and we know this hadith, and this is ilm yaqeen. Okay, but we haven't seen the Prophet ﷺ doing salah to do it like him. Okay, so the aynul yaqeen here is not there. However, we have seen who saw, okay, some ulama, from alim to alim to alim, to the Sahaba, may Allah be pleased with them, who saw the Prophet ﷺ making salah, and we are doing likewise. We are trying to be like that. But there's no yaqeen that, the Prophet ﷺ used to do it exactly 100% this way. Okay. Now, aynul yaqeen is when you see something and witness it with your own eyes. Haqqul yaqeen is when you experience the thing or taste it. Like if someone, said to you, I have a peach, okay, or an apple in my bucket, and he's trustworthy, you would believe him, and this will be, ilm yaqeen for you, a fact. But if he showed it to you, it will be more, fact, because you have visualized it. It will be aynul yaqeen. If he would give it to you, because it might be a plastic or it could be fake, if you taste it, it would be haqqul yaqeen. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned all of these in Surah Al-Takathur, as you can refer to and know. Now, as opposed to this is the jahl. And jahl is 2 states. We have simple ignorance, and we have, aggravated or, unfortunately, a bad state advanced, which cannot be advanced, but it's a worst state of jahl, which is called composite, jahl murakkab. And a person, if you ask him about something he doesn't know, he says, I don't know it. This is simple ignorance. But if this person started to falsify things and say this is, so and so, it would be a problem. And this person might be difficult for you to convince him about something real, because this person had notion in his mind and he might not change his mind. So this is jahl murakkab, okay? And they say in the history that there was a man, and this man, he had, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us, strayed, and he started to say to the people to do some forbiddance as to bring them closer to Allah, which cannot be. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us. Like the people now, when they think that the things that they innovate or they do, by their zealousness is better than what the Prophet ﷺ has brought in the Sharia. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us. This is no doubt a deviation. A deviation. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us steadfast and firm on His deen. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned here about the woman who would migrate to Medina. فإن علمتموهن مؤمنات يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا جاءكم المؤمنات مهاجرات فامتحنوهن. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has preceded this ayah by saying, test them, try them to find out, okay? فإن علمتموهن, then if it comes to you, to your knowledge, reasonably, you assumed that they are believers, then it's not allowed for you to return them to the kuffar. And this was after the Hudaybiyah treaty. Okay, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala excluded the woman with this ayah, though it was not mentioned at all in the contract made, or the treaty, the Hudaybiyah treaty. Hudaybiyah treaty was talking about the males, because it was to them far, from being thought of, far to think about that woman would go to Medina and embrace Islam. This is the first, the knowledge. Then he said the meaning of Islamic rules is whether a thing is compulsory. The Islamic rules of the Ahkam al-Shar'iyya is what we know about the 5 states of human being actions. Either it is a wajib, and what we are doing now lies on under these 5 things. Either it is a wajib, or it is mustahab, or it is mubah, or on the other hand, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us, it is makruh, disliked, or forbidden, haram. And what we are doing now is mustahab, because seeking knowledge and spreading knowledge, it is no doubt one of the highly recommended things. So these are the 5 things pertaining to Islamic rulings, and more than that, as we said, there is al-ahkam al-shar'iyya, okay, al-amaliyya, and there is al-ahkam al-wad'iyya, okay, al-ahkam al-taklifiyya wal-ahkam al-wad'iyya. Al-ahkam al-wad'iyya is when we can say this is valid or this is invalid, and this is, correct or this is incorrect, okay, with regard to the matters itself, the dealings and the contracts. Or for example, the salah, you say حكم الصلاة الوجوب, okay, salah واجبة. But if you come to a specific salah, you have to give more details, okay. Another حكم for salah, you say this salah is correct, مقبولة, or we can say صحيحة, or باطلة. If a person, for example, makes salah, okay, in the best manner possible, but without wudu, his salah is باطلة, is invalid, okay, and so on. So these are the Islamic rules. he adds the adjective social. He said excludes those areas where ijtihad is not valid. Like what we said, aqidah. Aqidah, there is no ijtihad in the matters of aqidah and tawheed. Okay, there is no ijtihad about whether salah is compulsory or not. Huh? Okay, and so on. طيب. Should we stop here or carry on for a while?
We'll stop, Sheikh, inshallah.
طيب إن شاء الله. طيب, we stopped at the end of page 20. Thirdly, the technical meaning of أصول الفقه إن شاء الله. ونسأل الله عز وجل أن يعلمنا ما ينفعنا وينفعنا بما علمنا ويزيدنا علما يا رب العالمين. نسأل الله جل وعلا أن يتقبل منا ومنكم الصيام والقيام وأن يعيننا وإياكم على ذكره وشكره وحسن عبادته. ونسأل الله عز وجل لنا ولكم القبول وأن يحفظنا وإياكم من هذا الوباء وأن يرفع هذا البلاء عنا وعن المسلمين وعن العالم أجمعين يا رب العالمين ويصلح أحوالنا. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من زوال نعمتك وتحول عافيتك وفجاءة نقمتك وجميع سخطك. اللهم اصلح لنا أزواجنا وذرياتنا، اصلح لنا أحوالنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم ارزقنا من واسع فضلك واحفظنا بحفظك يا كريم يا منان يا عظيم الإحسان. اللهم لا تؤاخذنا بذنوبنا، اللهم لا تؤاخذنا بذنوبنا، اللهم لا تؤاخذنا بذنوبنا. اللهم اجعلنا هداة مهتدين غير ضالين ولا مضلين. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من البرص والجنون والجذام ومن سيء الأسقام. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين. If you have a question, you can ask, inshallah. If anybody has a question, you can raise your hand and ask, inshallah, or come to the mic.
Sheikh, can you give a few more examples of the mafhum al-mukhalifa that you mentioned?
Okay. طيب. مفهوم المخالفة, inshallah, it will come, it will be a class by itself. I hope, inshallah, he's discussing this here. But as we said, like what we said in the hadith, usually I mentioned, I quote, when the ulama understood from the Prophet ﷺ, when al-Mu'mineen brought a towel for him to dry his wudu, and he said, I don't need it. لا حاجة لي به. Okay. Some people, they understood that it is sunnah to dry, the after wudu, to dry oneself. And some of them said it's forbidden. Okay. Those uses the direct, and those used مفهوم المخالفة. Okay. The Prophet ﷺ, when he said, I don't need it, مفهوم المخالفة is that he used to need it sometimes. You got the point? Okay. He used to need that sometimes, but that time he didn't need it. That's why they said it is a sunnah, or it is okay, at least it is permissible to dry the wudu. While the others, they said it's forbidden. Okay. Thinking that the Prophet ﷺ, when he said, I don't need it, as if he said, I don't dry the wudu, which is very far fetched. It cannot be like neither word of the Prophet ﷺ helps that understanding, nor even understanding it, by al-mukhalafa, by the opposite. Okay, inshallah, we'll come with us many examples to this. And one of the good things that we need to realize is to try to apply the Usool al-Fiqh right away. As we mentioned in this hadith, we are trying, even like the hadith when he mentioned hadith Muawiyah, that the Prophet ﷺ said, مَا يُرِدِ اللَّهُ بِهِ خَيْرًا يُفَقِّهُهُ فِي الدِّينِ وَإِنَّمَا أَنَا قَاسِمٌ. Understanding the rest of the hadith, applies at the beginning and joining this is actually part of what we realize and what we come to understand from Usool al-Fiqh. Okay? And Usool al-Lugha together. Yes.
Jazakallah khair.
Ameen wa iyyak wa iyyak. Any more questions, brothers? تفضل يا شيخ عمران.
السلام عليكم شيخ.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. حياك الله.
Sheikh, just wanted to ask you, in the beginning, during the days of the Sahaba, I think there were not many fiqh